So hello everyone, and thank you so much, Swarna, for inviting me to this program. Um, I when I spoke to Swarna first, and she talked about the issue of marital rape and wanting to have a discussion about it. I was I would say, wondering how one should put this across, because it's been years of demand for a law specifying the issue of marital rape, and yet there are so many ground realities that we are facing on a day-to-day level. So it's just really a very difficult topic that one has to be, tentatively uh, explore while we are doing that, and it's nice that we can do this in this safe space. um, I'm going to be speaking mostly from my experience of working with Majlis and working closely with implementation of law, and to bring in the different aspects that we have been grappling with on the ground. um, I'm going to start with saying that, and put it out there, that it is not true that India does not have a law uh, on marital rape. That is a false statement. That is a wrong statement, and that statement has been getting, a lot of hype, a lot of publicity, and the reality is that today every student who contacts Majlis invariably is doing a project, a paper, uh, something around the issue of marital rape. And the most direct question they ask me is, how come marital rape is not a crime in this country? And my answer to them is that marital rape is a crime in this country, is very much a crime in this country. And it is not true that that men can rape their wives because we have laws to deal with this. So that's my first statement. Just to give you context, what I am talking about is, yes, it is not included in section 376. That's true. Marital rape is not included in section 376. There is an exclusion mentioned under section 376. However, in 1983, we very clearly got a law on cruelty to wives, which is section 498A IPC. It says, and I quote, that any cruelty by the husband or his, by the husband on a woman, and that can be physical or mental, is a crime, and it is punishable with 3 years imprisonment. For me and for everyone here, the definition of physical cruelty would include all kinds of cruelty on the wife, all kinds of physical cruelty on the wife. So definitely beating her with their hands, with objects, with, would be the actual physical cruelty that we understand. But physical cruelty could also be forcing her to have sex. Like the way mental cruelty includes all emotional abuse and all kinds of verbal, abuse that may be happening to her, because the definition is that large. It is physical or mental abuse. So no kind of physical or mental abuse is permitted, and definitely, in my opinion, that sexual abuse is a kind of physical abuse. Now, going back to where I'd like to start is that, to give you a context, Majlis has been working on the issue of domestic violence for the past 30 years. And for the past 10 years, we have been very, very closely working on the ground in cases of rape. So we are coming to this issue from both spaces. When we started in 1991, we were working more with personal laws to help women get their rights. We were using Section 125 CRPC, which is a right to maintenance, to help women get their maintenance, and selectively use Section 498A if a woman was seeking punishment. However, in our experience, the women who opted to file a criminal case against their husband under Section 498A was very, very, very few. I would say it was negligible in our experience on the ground, working in Mumbai and working exclusively on cases of domestic violence. Because as a legal center who was providing women with legal advice and then helping them access justice, approach courts, women were more often than not and very clearly demanding for reliefs. What they were saying is that, yes, I am facing domestic abuse, I am facing physical abuse, I am facing verbal abuse, emotional abuse. And currently my situation is such that my husband refuses to maintain me. And I am coming to you for that. He is not providing me with maintenance. In over 90% of our cases or more, the women mostly articulating this need that they are not being maintained. They are not even receiving money from their husbands. They've been denied money from their husbands to even survive and for the survival of their children. The other common relief that women were asking was for residence. I want an order to be able, I want that my husband either provides me with a residence in our home or provides me with an alternate residence. These are the two highest demands that women came to us with, saying that this is the relief we are seeking. And to help them access those reliefs, they had a choice of filing 125 CRPC for maintenance, or filing under the personal laws for right of residence. And they had a choice of filing under Section 498A for punishment. But most of them opted for reliefs. Now, the reason why, if you ask me, they were not opting for Section 498A was because Section 498A is a law which is geared towards punishment. Assuming all things being perfect, if a woman went to a police station, told the police that she was facing violence and abuse and cruelty, and she met the most perfect police officer and he recorded a case in the best manner possible, and he sent the charge sheet to court on time, and the case was tried in court, and evidence was produced, and her statement was recorded, and everything went perfectly. At the end of that case, the result or the victory would have been 3 years punishment to the husband. But the question she was asking is, I am seeking relief. I am seeking relief for maintenance. I am seeking relief for residence. I am seeking relief for my children. So if the husband is going to be in jail, how am I going to get my release? So even though she had the option of filing under Section 498A, she did not choose to use that option because it defeated her purpose of relief. Which comes to the point that suppose her husband was sexually abusing her, was raping her, that would also amount to cruelty. She could very well go to the police station and talk about this abuse, and it would come under the definition of Section 498A. I want to move to another space here and talk about our experience of women's hesitation, women being uncomfortable with talking about sexual violence. While women will describe in detail stories about violence, physical violence to them, physical abuse, beating, beating with hand, beating with other objects. They talk about the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse. They're very hesitant to talk about sexual abuse. And it's difficult to describe that incident in the same manner that it is difficult to describe the incident even for victims of rape. It's very traumatic, it's very difficult to explain, to describe. And so they mostly don't talk about it till you kind of draw it out from them. And even while they talk about it, the whole focus is on the relief that, because there's a lot of acceptance by women of different kinds of violence on them, because there's really they look at it as they have no choice. But when they are in a very desperate situation is when they come out and talk about it, because what they're seeking for is the relief. And so they focus on that. And so when we talk about our experience of cases of rape, and just to put on record that while Majlis has been doing cases of rape for the past 10 years, and our intention of our program is to support victims of rape through the trial and provide all kinds of other support to them. And it's a program for women and children, but almost 85% of our cases have ended up becoming cases of children. The cases of rape that we work with are invariably, a lot of the cases are cases of rape on children. Because of mandatory reporting, these cases come forward, these cases are reported, and these girls have to, talk about these incidents of rape. And these are rapes by, as all of us know sitting here, that most of the cases are by known people. And when I say known people, I mean very close people. You're talking about fathers, grandfathers, brothers, uncles, brothers, sisters, husbands, very, very close family members, and then neighbors and other kind of relationships. And when women have to kind of narrate those incidents of rape, it is extremely traumatic for them to describe it, and for even for the police when they're recording it. And that's why we know that why so many cases of rape, women refuse to come out and speak about it. Of course, because of mandatory reporting, they're out there, right? Instances like Nirbhaya, instances like, other incidents that have happened thereafter, and the whole journey of rape cases has resulted in, every time there's a high profile case, we're asking for more and more stringent punishment. So we've moved from 7 years and now we've reached death penalty. And that's how stringent the punishment has become. And what we have seen, and a lot of you must have also experienced, is the more stringent the punishment, the more difficult it is to kind of get people to report. Because you're talking about, you have to place in perspective that it is not always a Nirbhaya case where the accused is the stranger, and that much easier to and also she's dead. So going through a trial on a case like that, as compared to filing a rape case against your brother or your father or your neighbor, and going through this trial where the punishment is going to be, life or 15 years or death, is extremely traumatic. So more stringent the punishment doesn't always mean, people are filing and more comfortable filing better cases. Okay. So now, just to again put this whole thing together, what we are saying is, and at least I want to say, is that marital rape is a crime in this country. It is not okay in this country to rape your wife. It is not true that India does not have a law on addressing the issue of marital rape. On the other hand, more stringent the punishment doesn't mean that it's better or it's easier or it's it results in better outcomes. Now, given these two scenarios, what I'd like to kind of bring together is the issue of domestic violence, right? So are we now on a technical ground? Are we now on a technical ground that, okay, we agree that marital rape is a crime, but it is not a crime under 376 where the punishment is 7 years. It is only a crime under 498A where the punishment is 3 years. So we can argue on that technical difference, right? That as per section 498A, okay, if you say that, you can interpret physical abuse as also rape, but at the end, he'll get only 3 years punishment, as against if we include it in the section of 376, where he will get 7 years punishment. So if we are on that technical ground, then I would like to put forward that, are we then saying that rape in a domestic violence situation is here, but if he beats you, if he breaks your head, if he doesn't give you food and starves you, if he does any other kind of violence, it's here? Are we then saying that? Are we putting rape on a pedestal in a situation of domestic violence where we are saying if your husband rapes you, then the crime should be 7 years and the punishment should be 7 years. But if he breaks your head and causes other physical violence to you and other abuse to you, then it's lesser. Because that's what we would be saying. Which I feel is problematic. Because I feel it's problematic in more ways than one, because even if I have to take only sexual abuse in a marital context, sexual abuse is not only when your husband rapes you, it is also when your husband refuses to have sex with you. That itself is abuse. When the husband brings other women and has sex with them in front of you is also abuse. Denying me sex is abuse as much as him forcing himself on me. So even in the comparison of sexual abuse, will you then do his penetration or whatever on me is higher offense, so should be included in rape and 376, and then all the rest is not really so important, so let's put it at at the lesser crime? And that would be problematic. So I think that what we need, and this is what I would like to conclude by saying, is what we need is to relook at section 498A. Bring more clarity into the definitions of 498A. Put out there the different crimes that happen in a domestic relationship. And by all means, if we are here to kind of have, if everyone's out to say, okay, more stringent the punishment, then let all crimes of domestic violence reach that level, whatever is the hope of 7 years, 15 years, life, death, whatever. But why should it be excluded? Because in a domestic relationship, all these kind of violence is all interlinked. It's not like my husband rapes me, but he doesn't beat me, or he doesn't starve me, or he takes care of my children. It's all there, interplaying. So we need to look at it as a whole and not isolate this and feel that adding it in 376 is somehow giving us more rights, because really, what is it going to achieve? I think I'll stop here and I will hand it back to you.
Thanks a lot, Audrey. That was, I think, given us a lot to think about. We'll now move on to Jhuma for her presentation.